opened her refrigerator door and found a rabbit inside. "What are you doing inside my refrigerator?" she asked. "Isn't this a Westinghouse?" the rabbit asked. "Yes, so what?" she replied. "Well," said the rabbit, "I'm Westing."
What's gray, has 4 legs and a trunk?
"A mouse, going on vacation." "Lady, does your dog have a license?"
Of course not, officer. He's too young to drive.
"Lady, I want you to get that dog off the street.
But, officer, where should I put him?
Put him in a barking lot."
My dog is lost. He ran off into the woods and I don't know how to find him.
"Well, that's not hard. Just put your ear to a tree and listen to the bark."
My dog is suffering from a chill.
"Oh, must be a popsicle."
My dog just loves getting washed 5 times a day.
"Really? Is that why you call him a shampoodle?"
No, he's a watchdog.
Well, if he's a watchdog, how come he's running around in circles?
Because he's all wound up. But I did get him to stop barking in the back seat of the car.
Ah, how'd you do that?
I put him in the front seat.
Did you hear about the dog who married a chicken and they had a baby?
That's odd. What was the baby like?
It was a poached egg.
Your dog is eating my book. What are you going to do about it?
I'm going to take the words right out of his mouth.
The little boy was crying so hard he could hardly answer when his friend asked him what was wrong. I was so thirsty, he said. I swapped my dog for a bottle of lemonade. Oh, said his friend, and now you wish you had him back. Yes, yes, wailed the little boy. Because you realized how much you loved him, said the friend. No, sobbed the little boy, because I'm thirsty again.
Once upon a time, a man from the city was driving through the countryside when his car suddenly stopped. "I wonder what's wrong," he thought. "I know I have plenty of gas." So he stopped and got out of his car and lifted the hood and looked inside. He fiddled with this and he fiddled with that, but he could just not figure out what was wrong.
"The trouble is with the carburetor,"
a deep voice behind him said. He turned to see a big bull standing behind him. There was no one else there. Astonished, he said, "Did you say something?"
"Yes," said the bull. "I said the trouble is with the carburetor."
And the bull walked over and looked under the hood. The man started running as fast as he could to a nearby farm. He knocked on the door, and when the farmer came to the door, he told the farmer what had happened. "Is that a big bull with a sort of a floppy right ear?" the farmer asked. "Yes, yes," said the man, "that's the one." "Well," the farmer drawled, "I wouldn't pay too much attention to him. That bull, he doesn't know as much about cars as he thinks he does." What is black and white and has 16 wheels?
Zebra on roller skates.
Can giraffes have babies?
No, they can only have giraffes.
Why are giraffes so slow to apologize?
It takes a long time for them to swallow their pride.
What is gray and blue and very, very big?
An elephant holding its breath?
Why do elephants have short tails?
So they don't get stuck in revolving doors.
Is it hard to spot a leopard?
No, they come that way.
What would you get if you blew a hairdryer down a rabbit hole?
Hot cross bunnies. How can you tell which end of a worm is the head?
Tickle it in the middle and see which end laughs.
What's the best thing to do if you find a gorilla in your bed?
Sleep somewhere else.
What do you call a 2,000-pound gorilla?
Sir.
What do squirrels give each other on Valentine's Day?
Forget-me-nuts. Why is your dog looking at me like that?
Possibly because you're eating out of his bowl.
If you saw 9 elephants walking down the street wearing red slippers and 1 elephant walking down the street wearing green slippers, what would this prove?
That 9 out of 10 elephants wear red slippers.
What is a mouse's favorite game?
Hide and squeak.
How do you make a pickle laugh?
Tell it an elephant joke.
How do we know that owls are smarter than chickens?
Have you ever heard of Kentucky Fried Owl?
What did the boy snake say to the girl snake?
Give me a little hiss.
What do you call it when 5 toads sit on top of each other?
A totem pole.
A man was driving down a country road one day when he saw a strange creature go racing down the road. He tried to catch up with it, but it ran so fast he couldn't catch up. When he passed a farm, he pulled in and spoke to the farmer who was raking some hay. "Excuse me, sir," he said, "but I just saw a strange creature with feathers go racing down the road. Do you know what it is?" "Yep," drawled the farmer, "that's a 3-legged chicken." "A 3-legged chicken?" said the man in amazement. "Where did that come from?" "Breed 'em here," said the farmer. "But why would you want to breed 3-legged chickens?" the man asked. "Well," said the farmer, "my wife and son and I all like drumsticks, so now when we have chicken for dinner, we can each have a leg." "Oh, that makes sense," said the man. "How do they taste?" "Don't know," said the farmer. "Haven't been able to catch one yet." What hurts more than a giraffe with a sore throat?
A centipede with sore feet.
Why are fish so smart?
Because they always go around in schools.
Why is it hard to talk with a goat around?
Because they always butt in.
What would you rather have chase you, an elephant or a lion?
I'd rather have the elephant chase the lion.
What's gray inside and clear outside?
An elephant in a baggie. What time is it when an elephant sits on a fence?
Time to get a new fence.
You know, of course, why elephants have trunks.
Yeah, they look pretty silly carrying suitcases.
What's better than an elephant who can count?
A spelling bee.
My giraffe got his feet wet. Do you think he'll get a sore throat?
Sure, but not till next week.
What's worse than a giraffe with a sore throat?
An elephant with a bloody nose.
I worry about my giraffe. He has such a small appetite.
Well, with giraffes, a little goes a long way.
What do dinosaurs have that no other animal has?
Little dinosaurs.
Did I ever tell you about the time I came face to face with a lion?
No, what happened?
There I stood, no gun, no weapon. The lion came closer and closer, growling ferociously. Closer and closer he came.
How terrifying. What did you do?
I just moved on to the next cage.
You've got a great-looking stuffed lion in your room. Where did you get him?
In Africa, on a hunting trip with my cousin.
What's he stuffed with?
His stuff with my cousin.
What should you do when you see a big lion?
Hope the lion doesn't see you.
If you were walking in a field and you saw a bear heading for you, what would you do?
Run.
Really? With a bear behind?
I hear a duck, a frog, and a skunk went to the movies. It only cost $1, but the rumor is they didn't all get in. Do you know what happened?
Sure, the duck got in because he had a bill, the frog got in because he had a greenback, but the skunk couldn't get in because all he had was a cent, and it was really bad.
Do you know why the man cracked an egg over the ox's neck?
I guess he wanted to put a yoke on it.
On what side does a hen have the most feathers?
On the outside, of course.
What did the chicken say when it laid a square egg?
Ouch!
Do you know why a hen sitting on a fence is like a penny?
No, why is a hen sitting on a fence like a penny?
Because she has a head on one side and a tail on the other.
Do you know the difference between a chicken and an elephant?
No. What's the difference between a chicken and an elephant?
Boy, I'd sure hate to send you to the store for a couple of chickens.
Once upon a time, two horses were standing in the middle of a field discussing current events. A dog wandered by, stopped to listen, then he said, "What's new, fellas?" One of the horses turned to the other. In a very surprised voice, he said, "Imagine that. A talking dog."
I see you play chess with your dog. He must be very smart.
Not really. I beat him all the time.
That's a mighty strange-looking dog.
And that dog is a genuine police dog.
He doesn't look like any other police dog I've ever seen.
No, of course not. He's in the Secret Service.
A dog walked into McDonald's and ordered a Big Mac. He put ketchup on it, ate it, and left. Everybody was amazed. Wow, that's quite a dog. Does he always do that? Asked one of the customers. Oh, no, said the clerk. Usually he orders a cheeseburger.
Two boys were walking along the beach with a little dog. The dog's owner threw a stick out into the ocean. The dog went running on top of the water and got the stick and brought it back. "That's some smart dog you have that runs on water," said one of the boys. "Smart," said the owner. "I think he's dumb. He can't even learn how to swim."
A few city boys were taking a hike in the country. As they sat down to have their picnic lunch, they saw a big pile of empty milk cartons. "Look at that," said one of the boys. "It's a cow's nest."
Did you hear about the cow who caught a cold last winter, and after that, she gave nothing but ice cream?
A policeman was walking down the street when he saw a man coming towards him with a leopard on a leash. "Hey," he said, "you can't walk around with a leopard like that. Better take him to the zoo." "Okay, officer," said the man. But the next day, when the policeman was walking down the street again, there was the man coming towards him again with the leopard on the leash. Hey, you, said the policeman. I thought I told you to take that animal to the zoo.
I did, said the man. Today I'm taking him to the movies.
You know what they called the bug the astronauts found on the moon?
Sure, that's a lunatic.
What is a fast duck?
A quick quack. Did you hear about the baby sardine who saw a submarine for the first time? What is it, Mommy, he said. Don't be scared, she says. It's just a can full of people. Did you hear about the boy who had an elephant on his head? He didn't know what to do, so he went to the doctor. His doctor said, "Wow, you really need help." "You said it," cried the elephant. "Get this kid out from under me." "Doctor, you have to help me. My son thinks he's a chicken."
How long has this been going on?
"About 3 years."
Why did you wait so long to bring him in?
"Well, we really needed the eggs."
The polka-dotted zebra. Once upon a time, deep in the jungles of Africa, lived a lively herd of zebras. All day long they would run across the vast open plains, and their bright striped black and white coats made a beautiful design against the big blue sky. There were big zebras, little zebras, middle-sized zebras, all with brightly striped coats. That is, all except one little zebra. One little zebra was white, with big black polka dots. Big, round, black polka dots. Nobody could understand why that little zebra was different. His mommy was striped. His daddy was striped. His brother was striped. His sister was striped. But he was polka dotted. "That's all right, son," rumbled the father zebra. "Dots make you very special." "Don't worry, son," said his mother lovingly. "You look just fine." But the little polka-dotted zebra didn't think so. He didn't like being different from all the other zebras. Sometimes they would laugh at him and tease him. Sometimes they would sing, polka dot, whatever you are, a zebra you're not." They were only kidding, but it made the polka-dot zebra feel very bad. "Mommy," he said, "when I grow up, will I have stripes like the other zebras? Maybe my dots will turn into stripes." "I don't know," said his mommy honestly, "but in my eyes you are beautiful just the way you are." One day, a rumor swept across the Great Plains. The lions told the tigers, and the tigers told the leopards, and the leopards told the elephants, and the elephants told the zebras. There was to be a great party on the plains. The king and his wife and the princess and princesses and many, many visitors would come to the Great Plain to celebrate the king's birthday. They would stay in large tents, and there would be dancing and singing and feasting. And the greatest moment of all would be a long, wonderful parade of all the animals in the land. The elephants would dance. The monkeys would swing from tree to tree. The gazelles would show their great speed and grace, flying like birds. Even the hippos and rhinos would leave their cool, wet pools to march in the great parade. When he heard about the parade, the polka-dot zebra became sadder than ever. How could he march with all his family? His aunts, his uncles, his cousins. Everybody he knew was striped. But he was polka-dotted. The great king would laugh at him. The polka-dot zebra thought and thought about it. Finally, he made a big decision. He would not march in the great parade. He would run away and hide until the great day was over. Because he was a good little zebra, he scratched a note on a palm leaf so that his parents would not worry. And then, in the dark of night, where only a small sliver of a silver moon made a path of light, he ran off across the empty plain. Far, far away ran the polka-dot zebra, for he was strong and fleet of foot. The next morning, he saw shining in the distance the towers and steeples of the king's city. "I will wait," thought the little zebra. by this little stream. There's lots of grass to eat and plenty of water to drink. I can watch the gate to the city, and when the king's party returns from the march, I will go home." Now it happened that the king went out into the plain every morning, riding his famous white horse to view his land lying all about. But as he left the city that morning, his horse was thirsty. Galloping along the plain, he headed for the little stream so that he could drink. And there, lying by the stream, was the little zebra fast asleep. "Why, what is that?" exclaimed the king. "I do declare, it's a polka-dot zebra." Just then, the polka-dot zebra opened his eyes and saw the big white horse with the splendidly noble king. Shakily he got to his legs, his eyes round and frightened. "Do not be afraid, little zebra," said the king. "I would like to be your friend. Come, run along with us as I take my morning ride." And off they went, galloping across the plain, the big white horse with the noble king, and the little polka-dot zebra following as fast as he could. Back at the zebra's home, all the animals were watching with wonderment as the day of the big party approached. There were large tents with brightly colored rugs. There were tables of food with juicy fruits and rich pastries and colorful vegetables. There were jugglers and clowns, magicians and dancers. And then, on the big day, the animals started lining up early in the morning for the king's parade. First came the lordly lions, heads high in the air, the stately elephants, the sleek tigers, the slender jaguars, and all the other animals of the kingdom, stretching from one end of the plains to the other. And then, to the front of the parade came the king. And who was by his side, trotting proudly along? It was none other than the polka-dotted zebra. A roar of amazement soared through the air as the other animals saw him. As the drums beat and the trumpets blew and the king said, "And now I appoint the polka-dot zebra Grand Marshal of the Great Birthday Parade. Let it begin." And high-stepping, head in the air, off marched the polka-dot zebra across the great plain with all the animals of the kingdom marching behind him in the grand parade. And ever after that day, all the little zebras say to their mommies, "Why can't we be polka-dotted too?" And the little polka-dot zebra never wanted to be striped again.
His throat. In the sea, once upon a time, oh my best beloved, there was a whale, and he ate fishes. He ate the starfish and the garfish, and the crab and the dab, and the plaice and the dace, and the skate and his mate, and the mackerel and the pickerel, and the really truly twirly-whirly eel. All the fishes he could find in all the sea he ate with his mouth, until at last there was only one small fish left in all the sea, and he was a small 'stute fish, and he swam a little behind the whale's right ear so as to be out of harm's way. Then the whale stood up on his tail, and he said, "I'm hungry." And the small 'stute fish said in a small 'stute voice, "Noble and generous cetacean, have you ever tasted man?" "No," said the whale. "What's it like?" "Nice," said the small 'stute fish. "Nice, but nubbly." "Then fetch me some," said the whale, and he made the sea froth up with his tail. "One at a time is enough," said the 'stute fish. "If you swim to latitude 50 north, longitude 40 west, that is magic. you will find sitting on a raft in the middle of the sea with nothing on but a pair of blue canvas breeches, a pair of suspenders. You must not forget the suspenders, best beloved, and a jackknife. One shipwrecked mariner, who, it is only fair to tell you, is a man of infinite resource and sagacity. And so the whale swam and swam to latitude 50 north, longitude 40 west, as fast as he could swim, and on a raft in the middle of the sea, with nothing to wear except a pair of blue canvas breeches, a pair of suspenders. You must particularly remember the suspenders, best beloved, and a jackknife. He found one single solitary shipwrecked mariner trailing his toes in the water. He had his mummy's leave to paddle, or else he would never have done it, because he was a man of infinite resource and sagacity. Then the whale opened his mouth, back and back, till it nearly touched his tail, and he swallowed the shipwrecked mariner, and the raft he was sitting on, and his blue canvas breeches, and the suspenders, which you must not forget, and the jackknife. He swallowed them all down to his warm, dark inside cupboards, and then he smacked his lips. Just so. And he turned round 3 times on his tail. But as soon as the mariner, who was a man of infinite resource and sagacity, found himself truly inside the whale's warm, dark inside cupboards, he stumped, and he jumped, and he thumped, and he bumped, and he pranced, and he danced, and he banged, and he clanged, and he hit, and he bit, and he leaped, and he creaked, and he prowled, and he howled, and he hopped, and he dropped, and he cried, and he sighed, and he crawled, and he bawled, and he stepped, and he leapt, and he danced hornpipes where he shouldn't. And the whale felt most unhappy indeed. Have you forgotten the suspenders? So he said to the 'Stute Fish, "This man is very nubbly, and besides he is making me hiccup. What shall I do?" "Tell him to come out," said the 'Stute Fish. And so the whale called down his own throat to the shipwrecked mariner, "Come out and behave yourself. I've got the hiccups." "Nay, nay," said the mariner, "not so, but far otherwise. Take me to my natal shore and the white cliffs of Albion, and I'll think about it." And he began to dance more than ever. "You had better take him home," said the 'Stute Fish to the whale. "I ought to have warned you that he is a man of infinite resource and sagacity." So the whale swam and swam and swam, with both flippers and his tail, as hard as he could for the hiccups. And at last he saw the mariner's natal shore and the white cliffs of Albion. And he rushed halfway up the beach, and he opened his mouth wide, 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 and he said, "Change here for Winchester, Ashalot, Nashua, Keene, and stations on the Fitchburg Road." And just as he said Fitch, the mariner walked out of his mouth. But while the whale had been swimming, the mariner, who was indeed a person of infinite resource and sagacity, had taken his jackknife and cut up the raft into a little square grating, all running crisscross, and he had tied it firm with his suspenders. Now you know why you weren't to forget the suspenders. And he dragged that grating good and tight into the whale's throat, and there it stuck. And then he recited the following sloka, which, as you have not heard it, I will now proceed to relate. "By means of a grating, I have stopped your ating." For the mariner, he was also a Hibernian. And he stepped out on the shingle and went home to his mother, who had given him leave to trail his toes in the water. And he married and lived happily ever afterward. So did the whale. But from that day on, the grating in his throat, which he could neither cough up nor swallow down, prevented him eating anything except very, very small fish. And this is the reason why whales nowadays never eat men or boys or little girls. The small 'stute fish went out and hid himself in the mud under the door sills of the equator. He was afraid that the whale might be angry with him. The sailor took the jackknife home. He was wearing the blue canvas breeches when he walked out on the shingle. The suspenders were left behind, you see, to tie that grating with. And that is the end of that tale.
Timothy Edmonds' prehistoric pet. Timothy Edmonds woke up on a Saturday morning filled with excitement. In fact, he was wide awake and dressed at 6 a.m. This was the day of his 6th birthday, and in the Edmonds family, your birthday was the day you got one wish granted. Of course, it couldn't be a crazy wish like skydiving or a trip to the moon. His sister Alice had gotten her wish 2 weeks ago on her 8th birthday. She got a white, fluffy kitten all her own. So Timothy knew there wouldn't be a whole lot of discussion when he made his request. He wanted his own pet, and a very special pet. He could hardly sit still during breakfast. And finally, when he had finished his cereal, his father said, "Timothy, what's your birthday wish?" His mother was smiling. His little sister Judy was smiling, and even his sourpuss-faced sister Alice was smiling as she stroked her little kitten. "I want my very own pet." Everybody nodded approvingly, and Dad said, "Your wish will be granted. Today, we will go and buy you a pet. Do you want a puppy?" "Nope," Timothy answered. "I want a real live dinosaur." Everyone laughed and laughed. Timothy was always the one to make jokes, but by the time the second big tear rolled down Timmy's cheek, the laughter stopped. "Timothy, darling," his mother said, "you're not really serious about a dinosaur." "Yes, I am," he sniffled. "But Timothy," Mom said, "you are such a big dinosaur fan. You have so many books about them. You know they don't exist anymore. They died millions of years ago." He turned to his father and said, "You said I could have my wish. You said so." "If I knew where to buy a baby dinosaur, I'd buy one," his father said. "But pet stores just don't carry them." "But I know where to buy one," Timothy cried. "And all it takes is $10. He jumped up from his chair and ran up the stairs, 2 at a time. The rest of the family just sort of rolled their eyes, looked at each other, and smiled. Timothy was back in a minute, clutching a newspaper in his hand. He held it out to his father. "Here, read this." His father looked at the little advertisement in the bottom left-hand corner of the paper and read aloud, "Dinosaur eggs, believed to be brontosaurus. Heartbeat has been detected. May be able to hatch. Send $10, name and address to..." "Oh, Timothy." His father dropped the newspaper to his lap. "This is a joke. Oh, come on, a ripoff." "But I believe it." Timothy was so earnest. "I really do. And even if it is a big lie, I'll just get a $10 birthday present. But maybe, just maybe I'll get a baby dinosaur." "Now, Timothy," said his mother, "you understand that you will just be throwing out $10. Timothy stood up very tall and said, "I know I may lose it. I believe I'm going to get a dinosaur, and it is my birthday." So Mom and Dad just looked at each other and shrugged their shoulders. Alice had a real smirk on her face, and Judy was busy cleaning the grape jelly off her t-shirt. The envelope was addressed, the money was enclosed, and Timothy himself dropped it into the mailbox at the corner. Every day for 2 weeks, Timothy stood at the door when the UPS truck came up the street. But it didn't stop. Everyone tried to cheer him up, but he kept watching. He was sure it would stop. And then one day it did. The man in the brown uniform delivered a great big box to the Edmonds house. Timothy was beside himself with excitement. The whole family helped to open the box, and when they did, it looked like it was filled with straw. There was a big handwritten note on top, and Mother read it aloud. Congratulations. You are the proud owner of a dinosaur egg. To help hatch this egg, place it in a dry, warm bed of leaves and branches. Use a heat lamp 10 hours a day, placed 6 feet away from the egg. Good luck. Wow, said Timothy. Now I've heard everything, said his father. Let's see the egg, said his mother. They began to take the straw out of the box. And sure enough, there was a giant egg. Timothy wanted to hatch the egg in his room, and finally, after much discussion, Mom and Dad agreed. They found a giant clay flower pot in the basement, which Timothy washed and cleaned. Then leaves and branches were gathered, and the egg was placed in the pot with Mom's reading lamp carefully positioned 6 feet away. They agreed that the lamp would be turned on and off by Mom during the day. Each night before he went to sleep, Timothy put his hands on the egg and kissed it goodnight. He knew it was just a matter of days now. His parents would go to their room at night, and Mom would say to Dad, "He's going to be so disappointed that it won't hatch." And Dad would put his arms around Mom and say, "I know, it will be a very hard lesson, but he won't forget it." Alice would stick her head in the door and say, "Timothy Edmonds, you are so dumb." But Timothy knew there was a dinosaur baby in that egg. And finally, one night, the egg hatched. Timothy heard it hatching and woke up everyone in the family. By the time the first little green arm broke through the shell, the whole family was gathered around the giant clay pot. Then the second little green arm, then the head, and rubbing its eyes, the little green dinosaur tumbled out of the egg, and with a big thump, it opened its eyes, blinked twice, and began to make the funniest little noises with its mouth. "What's the matter, little dinosaur?" asked Timothy. "He's probably hungry and thirsty," said Mom. She was always so practical. "Alice, go down to the kitchen and get the little pink plastic bowl. And Timothy, get some fresh leaves from the front porch and some cold chicken from the refrigerator." "I don't understand," said baby Judy. "We're going to find out if it's a meat eater or plant eater. Right, Mom?" "That's my boy," said Mom. And they found out very fast that the baby dinosaur just loved leaves and was really very thirsty. The news about the baby dinosaur spread quickly. First, the kids from the neighborhood came to see. Then their parents. Teachers from the school came. The librarian came. They were followed by 2 firemen, then the police chief, even the mayor came. And everyone had an opinion.
"I think the dinosaur should be in the zoo so everyone can see him. People would come from all over. Our town would be famous."
"I think we should have this little fella in the science lab at the high school."
"I think we should call the newspaper and TV people. This is big news."
And very politely, Timothy said, "This is my pet, and he's going to grow up with my family." And Timothy fed and cared for his dinosaur and named him Tommy. He talked to him, and he read to him, and he sang to him. He even showed him how to dance. Within 2 months, Tommy and Timothy were the same height. And Tommy the dinosaur had learned so much. He just loved music. When Timothy sang a song, Tommy sang too. And when Timothy would do a little dance, so did Tommy. Mom and Dad would laugh, watching the two of them. Tommy's tail was something of a problem, but he soon learned to slap his tail and then spin around. And when Tommy slapped his tail, Timothy clapped his hands. They had a great routine down pat. And people kept coming.
"I think this dinosaur should be in the movies."
I think this dinosaur could make our town rich and famous.
I think he's getting too big for a little boy.
But Tommy was gentle and sweet, and everyone in the Edmonds family had grown to love him. One day, the doorbell rang, and when Mom opened the door, there was a very tall man standing there who smiled and said, "How do you do, Mrs. Edmonds? My name is Martin Robinson, and I am a movie agent. I've heard about your dinosaur, and I think I can make him a star." Mom looked out to the street, and there was a long black limousine parked in front of the house with a driver in a uniform. "Well, he's not my dinosaur. He belongs to my son, Timothy." "May I come in?" asked Mr. Robinson. "I'd love to meet your son and his dinosaur." "Well, I suppose that would be all right. Come in." "Is that your car?" said Alice. "It's so big." But Mr. Robinson could barely hear what Alice said because the music was playing so loudly, and there was a thumping and clapping sound also. "Just wait a minute," said Mom. "My son and his dinosaur are dancing again, and they play that music so loudly. I'll get them to turn it off." "Oh, please don't, Mrs. Edmonds. Why don't we go see them? I've heard all about the dancing dinosaur. I'd love to see it." He followed Mom into the playroom where Timothy and Tommy were doing their dance. They were having such a good time, they didn't even see Mom and Mr. Robinson. Tommy was thumping his tail and rocking to the music, keeping in perfect step with Timothy. They were really dancing. Mr. Robinson smiled and clapped his hands as they finished.
You two are terrific. Fabulous. You'll be famous in no time. You belong in Hollywood.
"Timothy, Tommy, this is Mr. Robinson," said Mom. "He's a movie agent." Timothy stuck out his hand and shook hands with Mr. Robinson. Tommy did the same.
Timothy,
Mr. Robinson said,
how would you like to be in the movies?
"I think I'd rather go to the movies and watch them."
But you could be a star. You and your dinosaur could make movies and be rich and famous. You'd love Hollywood.
Timothy and Tommy looked at each other, and Timothy said quietly, "Everyone has ideas about what Tommy and I should do. Why do we have to do anything? We're just busy growing up and having fun." And he and Tommy walked out of the room and went outside to the swings. "Well, Mr. Robinson, I guess you have your answer," said Mom. But Mr. Robinson was looking angry now, and he said, "I think we should talk to your husband. Timothy's just a little boy, and he doesn't understand what this could mean. I think you should leave now, Mr. Robinson." And Mom walked him to the door. 2 weeks later, Timothy had a dentist appointment, and he and Mom didn't get home until it was almost dinner time. "Tommy!" he called. He went to the playroom. His sister Alice was watching television. "Where's Tommy?" he asked. "I don't know," she answered. He ran through the house. He ran outside. He looked in the basement, and he looked in the garage. "Mom! Mom!" he cried. "Tommy is gone!" Mom looked everywhere. She shut off the television and asked Alice if she had seen Tommy. She went to the phone and called Dad. Then she went next door to Mrs. Simmons' house, who was babysitting for Judy. When she came back, she looked really mad. "Mom? Mom? What's wrong?" Timothy was feeling scared now. Mrs. Simmons said she was outside with Judy, and she saw a long black car stop at our house, and a man got out and talked to Tommy. She said Tommy got in the car and they drove away. Just then, Dad arrived home, and Mom told him what had happened. Dad went to the phone. Within about 10 minutes, the police chief arrived with sirens screaming, and then the mayor and more people. Mom had her arm around Timothy's shoulders and was hugging him tightly. "We'll get to the bottom of this, Timothy," she said.
Who does that guy think he is? Coming to our town and taking our dinosaur.
said the police chief.
Let's get moving,
said the mayor. And within minutes, Dad and the police chief and the mayor got in the police car and with the sirens blasting, drove away. They'll get Tommy and bring him back, said Judy. And she went over to Timothy and gave him a big kiss. Mom, Timothy, Alice, and Judy were not alone for long. Everyone in town seemed to have heard what happened, and people were gathering at the Edmonds house. But all Timothy wanted to see was Tommy. And then, off in the distance, everyone could hear the sirens. They were coming closer and closer. Not one, but all 6 police cars. 2 in front of the big black limousine and 4 in back. And in the first police car, with the police chief and Dad, there was Tommy with his long neck sticking out the window. Timothy ran to meet the car and threw his arms around Tommy. He hugged Dad tightly and said, "Thanks, Dad. You're the best." Then Timothy saw Mr. Robinson walking between 2 policemen, and he was wearing handcuffs.
Take that guy to jail,
yelled the police chief.
We'll show him how we treat people who think they can just take away a child's pet.
2 big policemen put Mr. Robinson in a car and drove away. The police chief walked over to Timothy and Tommy, who were standing in the middle of a crowd of people. "Thank you, Chief," said Timothy. "Thank you from me and from Tommy."
You know, Timothy, said the chief, I think we all have to keep real quiet about Tommy in this town.
"That's right, Chief," said Mr. Erickson. "Sure is right," said Mrs. Simmons. "Maybe we've all been shooting our mouths off a bit too much," someone else said. Everyone in town agreed too. After all, a dinosaur might seem like something really different to a lot of people, but in this town he was Timothy Edmonds' pet. So what if he was 10 feet tall and green? And so Tommy became the town secret. No one talked to the newspapers, no one talked to the TV people, and if anyone asked if it was true there was a dinosaur living in town, people just laughed and said, "Come on, you know dinosaurs haven't been around for millions of years." But if you happened to walk past the Edmonds house and the windows happened to be open, you could see Timothy and Tommy rocking and dancing together. They weren't in the movies, but they sure were a pair of stars. Pioneer Dinos. There was a terrible drought in Dinosaur Land. It hadn't rained in over a month. All the marshes were drying up. The once thick grass was now yellow and dying. Dinosaurs, big and small, were starting to get thirsty and tired. The larger dinosaurs started to feed and drink from the places where the little dinosaurs usually ate and drank. It just wasn't fair. A group of small dinos huddled together.
"Look at that giant Allosaurus. She is taking the last of the water. Doesn't she know about sharing?"
Davy Crocodile was depressed and irritable. He moved about slowly, sighing.
There's not enough swamp to cover me anymore.
A flying pteranodon with huge wings and a pointed nose came down from the sky. It was the wise and all-knowing Great Bird. She had been traveling for many months now. "My fellow creatures, I have flown all over this beautiful earth. There is a place far, far away from here that has lots of pools and watering holes, where trees are tall and the bushes are bushy. I suggest that you band together and move to these green pastures." Grumps, the big old Apatosaurus, raised his long neck in protest.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm bigger and older than most other dinosaurs, and I don't have to leave if I don't want to.
Great Bird turned to Grumps and said, "Even you, almighty grumpy one, will not survive much longer here." Little baby Dryosaurus rushed to the front of the crowd and hid behind his mother, crying,
"I'm scared. I don't want to move."
Mama Dryosaurus hugged her baby and explained that if they went away, they could find a place with lots of water and lots of leafy plants. All the dinos gathered what little water and food they had. They took one last look at what they were leaving behind. Grumps, as always, couldn't leave without the last word.
We'll be sorry. It'll probably be worse in the new place. I don't know why you let some flying lizard talk you into such nonsense.
And the others, as always, ignored Grumps and moved ahead. Grumps ran after them, saying,
I'd better come along. You need someone with a long neck to see ahead. If I don't come, all of you will get lost.
Thus began the Great Dino Caravan. They traveled for days. Davy Crocodile dragged his long body and tail as best he could. Mama gave Baby what water she had. She began to worry. It's our 4th day on the road. My water supply will soon be gone. Mrs. Morosaurus cried out, We must find a home before my eggs hatch. It's so hard for me to travel all day carrying my eggs. See, Mrs. Morosaurus laid some eggs on the 2nd day of the journey. She had to walk slowly in order to protect them. This meant that the whole group had to go slower. Days and nights went by. Other dinos became tense and angry. Grumps growled,
We never should have listened to Great Bird. We've left our homelands in search of water and food, and it's even worse here. I say we turn back.
An elder of the dinosaurs jumped up on a rock and said,
Turn back? Why? We've only just begun. Great Bird told us that there was water in another land. We must keep going. Great Bird would never lead us in the wrong direction.
All the dinos shook their heads and agreed they must keep moving forward. They climbed up huge mountain masses and went down deep valleys. The largest dinosaurs ripped trees from the ground to clear a path for the others. Even Grumps helped Mrs. Morosaurus keep her eggs warm. He watched over them while she slept. Even though this was the worst of times for the dinosaurs, it was nice the way all of them helped each other, even Grumps. It was on the 5th day when Great Bird appeared before the crowd. You've almost reached your destiny. Just one more day, and you shall be in the land of green leaves and blue waters. The dinos all cheered at the good news. They all began to dance around with joy when Mama exclaimed, Shh! Listen, do you hear that?
Maybe it's thunder. If we're lucky, it will rain,
said Grumps. No, Mama said. That's the sound of the ground. It's a sound I've heard before.
What is it, Mama?
Asked Baby. Mrs. Morosaurus pointed. Look! Look over there! It's the volcano! It's going to explode! Oh no! We're all going to be covered with lava! All the dinos started to panic. They could feel the volcano was getting hotter and hotter and hotter by the minute. Everyone felt defeated. They looked over at Grumps, nodding their heads, saying, We should have listened to Grumps. We never should have tried. He was right. Grumps suddenly jumped up and shouted,
Wait! I've got an idea. I want all of you to listen carefully. Gather up all the rocks and boulders you can find. Hurry up! No time to waste. Don't give up.
Sure enough, every dinosaur, big and small, young and old, began to gather tons of rocks and boulders. In no time, there was a huge pile for Grumps to choose. With his huge tail and mighty strength, Grumps took rock after rock and boulder after huge boulder and hurled them into the mouth of the volcano. Lots of smoke filled the air.
Look! Grumps is putting out the volcano!
It was amazing. The once raging, growling volcano was now a simmering, smoldering little campfire. All the dinosaurs cheered. They began to dance, laugh, and jump about when... Oh no, not again. Oh no, not the volcano. It can't be. wonderful thing happened. It began to rain. Great torrents of water came rushing down from the sky. The dinosaurs were so happy. Davy Crocodile was so excited, he started to roll around in the mud. Mrs. Morosaurus celebrated the hatching of 3 new little ones. The next day, the Dino Pioneers reached their new homeland. What a wonderful place. It looked like paradise. There were lots of trees, plants, and water. Everything a dinosaur could ever want. The happy dinosaurs built a brand new community where they could live for the rest of their lives. Vivian the Amphibian. There once lived a 7-year-old amphibian named Vivian. She was a Dimetrodon, to be exact, and lived just outside of Jurassicville. Vivian, like most little dinos, lived with her parents in a humble 2-story cave. She had 2 brothers named Robbie and Max. Like most little sisters, Vivian thought that her 2 brothers were by far the most annoying creatures to roam the earth. They thought they were so cool and were always trying to show off in front of Mom and Dad. Robbie and Max always seemed to be the ones getting all the attention, while Vivian always seemed to get yelled at. Mommy would always be saying things like, "Good job, Robbie. Straight A's again. You're terrific." Even Max, who was dumber than a rock, always had nice things being said about him. Max was captain of a boulder ball team that was first place in the Western Hemisphere. He would always hear things like, "Not another blue ribbon, Max. Where are we going to put all your trophies?" Vivian, on the other hand, always heard things like, "Vivian, Mom said you have to eat all your plants or you can't go outside and play." Sometimes even Max would say to her, "Ha! You're dumber than me! You're dumber than me!" Vivian was much smaller than her 2 older brothers, so she couldn't really punch them. All she could do was gross them out. The best place to do that was always the dinner table. Vivian would chew up all her green leafy vegetables, then open her mouth and show it to her brothers. "Mom! Vivian just opened her mouth and showed me gross, chewed up food. You were so immature, you little brat." Mommy would always come to the table, shake her head, and say, "Vivian, why can't you just sit still and finish your supper like a good little dino? I want you to go upstairs to your room and don't come out until you can be nice to your brothers." Vivian stomped up the stairs. It seemed she was always getting yelled at, while her dumb, overgrown brothers received nothing but praise. Once again, Vivian was sent to her room without any dessert. She flopped herself down on the ground with her feet and tail in the air. She said to herself, "I wish, just for one day, I could be as big and mean as Tyrannosaurus Rex. Then nobody could tell me what to do. If only I could be bigger and stronger than Robbie and Max. I'd scare them to death. They'd be crying. They'd be so scared." Just then, Vivian heard a voice. "Psst, Viv." What was that? Wondered Vivian. She looked around the room. "Down here, on your pillow." There on her pillow sat a big, goofy bullfrog. "Who are you?" asked Vivian.
I'm the man on the moon. Who do you think I am? I'm a frog. Can't you tell by the bulging eyes and the slimy green skin?
I know that, but what are you doing here?
I'm Marlin, the magic frog. Really, I'm a prince, but a wicked witch turned me into a frog. It's a long story. Listen, I've got the chance to go back to Fairy Tale where I came from, but I can't unless I grant a wish for somebody.
What does that have to do with me? Asked Vivian.
I heard you say that you wished you were a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
I don't know if I want...
Sure you do. If I grant your wish, it'll make us both happy. You can get back at your brothers, and I can get kissed by a beautiful lady and turn back into a prince. It's a great deal.
Vivian pinched herself. It wasn't a dream. Right there in the middle of her room was a magic bullfrog begging to grant her a wish. This was awesome. You mean to tell me that all I have to do is say the word, and you'll turn me into a gigantic, meat-eating, ferocious dinosaur?
Yep. I'll even throw in fire-breathing nostrils at no extra charge.
All right! All of a sudden, Vivian stood in her bedroom, transformed into a 5-ton, fire-breathing, flesh-eating Tyrannosaurus Rex. She looked in the mirror and stood on her hind legs and let out a... She couldn't believe it. Her eyes were ugly and green and really bloodshot. The grossest was her nose. She had big, huge nostrils with fire coming out of them. This was great. Now Vivian the amphibian was the king of all dinosaurs and bigger than Max and Robbie. She couldn't wait to see the look on their faces when they saw Tyrannosaurus Vivian. The next morning, Mom was downstairs getting everyone ready for school. She called up to Vivian. Vivian, would you please hurry? I don't want you to be late again. Vivian got up and went to brush her teeth. Wow, there was no toothbrush big enough for this mouth. She looked at herself in the mirror and smiled. She must have had 1,000 teeth in there. As usual, Max was banging on the door.
Vivian, hurry up! What are you doing in there? If we're lucky, she's getting a face change in there,
said Robbie. Vivian laughed and thought to herself, that will be the last time they make ugly jokes about me. Just then, Vivian threw the door open and said,
Good morning, my beloved brothers.
You should have seen the look on their terrified faces. Robbie and Max screamed and ran downstairs to their mommy.
Mommy! Mommy! Vivian has turned into a ferocious, fire-breathing Tyrannosaurus!
Oh, Robbie, you're such a joker.
Mom, he's telling the truth. I saw it too. Vivian is a monster.
You two say that all the time. Why should today be any different? Vivian stood at the top of the stairs listening to what her brothers were saying. She couldn't help but laugh. Now, boys, settle down. I want you both to march back up those stairs and get your sister. But, Mom! No ands, ifs, or buts. Both of you up the stairs. Vivian couldn't wait to get them. She hid behind the door as Robbie and Max climbed each stair. She laughed to herself as they trembled with fear. You go first, Max. You're older. No, you go first because I'm the boss. They each went slowly, stair by stair. Just as Max reached the top step, Vivian jumped out and let out a... She grabbed both of them by their necks and shook them. They begged and pleaded,
Let us go! Please, let us go!
Vivian looked at her brothers with a mean look and blew a bowl of fire as she spoke.
I will let you go only if you promise to be nice to your sister.
Max and Robbie squirmed and tried to get away, but fierce, fire-breathing Vivian held them tight in her powerful clutches.
Okay, we promise. Please let us go.
Vivian shook the boys and said,
Do you also promise to let her play with all of your toys?
What? All of our toys? That's not... Yes, Vivian can play with all of our toys. We'll even clean her room.
With that, Vivian smiled and released her brothers, who ran down the stairs, out the door, and headed to their favorite hiding place. Vivian was hungry now and went downstairs to the kitchen where Mommy was.
Vivian, is that you?
Mommy said as she stirred the fern stew.
Hi, Mommy.
Honey, you sound funny. Are you sick? How about a nice bath of your favorite?
Just then, Mommy turned and saw Vivian. Mommy fainted right there on the floor. Vivian didn't know what to do. She ran next door to the neighbors.
Help! Mrs. Sauropod, it's Vivian. Help!
Mrs. Sauropod rushed to the door, opened it, and... Mrs. Sauropod fainted too. Oh no, what was Vivian going to do? She got up and ran over to Ginka's cave. Ginka was her best friend, and surely she would help. Ginka was playing in her backyard when Vivian came up to her.
Ginka!
Ginka turned, and when she saw a fierce, meat-eating Tyrannosaurus standing before her, she screamed and started to run. Vivian ran after her. And as she did, it seemed as if the whole earth shook. Vivian didn't know where to go. Everywhere she went, all she did was terrify the other amphibians and even big dinos. Vivian hid behind a huge volcano and cried,
I don't like being this big bully. Everybody is afraid of me. This isn't as fun as I thought it would be. I wish I hadn't turned into an evil Tyrannosaurus. I wish I never would have met Marlin the magic frog. No one wants to be around me. I'm so lonely. I can't ever go home again.
Vivian cried herself to sleep that night. Tossing and turning, she had terrible nightmares all night. It felt awful to be so alone. Vivian even missed her brothers. Morning came, and the sun was bright, and Vivian didn't want to face another day. She buried her head under the sand. She felt something jumping on her.
Psst, Vivian, it's me, Marlin. Go away. I don't want to see you.
Listen, I got it all wrong. I've got to grant you 2 wishes, not 1. I can turn you back into your old self.
Vivian was so pleased to hear this. She wagged her tail and smiled a big, toothy smile.
Yes, yes, oh yes. Change me back to me.
Are you sure you want to be you again? You didn't like being smaller and younger than everyone before. Are you sure you want to be you? I could turn you into a Triceratops or a flying dino. Not as big, but still pretty mean.
Vivian shook her head.
No way. I want to be me. I like me just the way I was. I'd rather be small and shy than huge and scary. I want my old cave, my old family, and my old problems back.
Suit yourself. It's your wish.
Vivian opened her eyes, and she was back. Hooray! She rushed home. Her mother was in the kitchen making stew and was so happy to see Vivian that she hugged her extra tight and gave her a warm, sweet smile. Vivian sat at the table and had a bowl of fern stew. Robbie and Max came running down the stairs.
Hi, Vivian. We just finished cleaning your cave. Is there anything else you want us to do?
Vivian didn't like her brothers nice and sweet. She wanted them to go back to the way they were. She looked at them and said, "Just go back to being your annoying selves." Dinos Go to the Polls. Democracy had come to Dinosaur Land. Everybody had gotten tired of old Tyrannosaurus Rex as king. He was very unfair in his rulings, and, in fact, behind his back, all the other dinos called him the Dino Despot. It was a very peaceful revolution. When a committee called on Tyrannosaurus Rex and told him he was being deposed, instead of being angry, he was grateful.
I'm sick and tired of all the responsibility. You think it's been easy? No way. Now I can devote all my time to scaring everybody.
And he let out such a ferocious roar that the committee ran helter-skelter into the jungle. Maybe old Tyrannosaurus didn't want to be the ruler, but plenty of other dinos did. There were so many dinosaurs who wanted to be president that the committee realized they had to make some new rules about who could run for the office. After a lot of squabbling, they came up with the following rules. 1. Every candidate for president must have 2 eyes. 2. Every candidate for president must know how to chew. 3. Every candidate for president must know how to walk.
That is so silly,
said Saltopus to Coelophysis.
all of us dinosaurs have 2 eyes, know how to chew, and know how to walk.
When all the dinosaurs laughed at the committee's rules, the committee had to meet again.
This is terrible,
said Triceratops.
We're the laughingstock of the jungle. We have to have a better set of rules. I've got it,
said Ankylosaurus.
Let's just have one candidate from the plant eaters and one candidate from the meat eaters.
Everybody agreed that was a good idea. So when the campaign started, only 2 candidates were running for office. For the meat eaters, Alus Apatosaurus. For the plant eaters, Alan Allosaurus. Alan was very impressive with his huge body, but the gossips all said he must have a tiny brain because his head was so small. Some really nasty meat eaters even started calling him Bird Brain. But he was very well liked, having a sweet and gentle nature, and it was hard to find anything unkind to say about him.
If I were voting for Boy Scout leader, I'd want Alan,
said Ankylosaurus.
But president? I really don't think he has the leadership qualities we need.
On the other hand, nobody had anything too good to say about Alus Apatosaurus. She was very fierce with her large dagger-like teeth and always cranky and short-tempered. It is true that she was smart and brave and had no trouble making a decision. Everybody in the jungle got involved in the spirit of the campaign. The meat eaters had a big barbecue rally for their candidate. Since they had to kill a lot of plant eaters to get the meat for the barbecue, the plant eaters were very bitter.
You'd think they would have had more sense than that,
said Stegosaur.
I can't imagine one single plant eater would vote for a meat eater.
Everybody was impressed with the powerful speech Alus Apatosaurus made.
My fellow meat eaters,
she said.
For hundreds of years, a meat eater, Tyrannosaurus Rex, has been king of the dinosaurs. Tradition is very important. This is no time to change. Vote for me, Alus Apatosaurus, meat eater.
The crowd cheered and went home very excited. The plant eaters held a vegetarian dinner party for their candidate. Everybody in the jungle was very impressed with his speech.
My fellow plant eaters,
he said.
For hundreds of years, a meat eater, Tyrannosaurus Rex, has been the king of the dinosaurs. We are stuck in an outmoded tradition. It's time for a change.
Alan Allosaurus, plant eater. The committee, which had both meat eaters and plant eaters on it, were very worried.
You just know that all the plant eaters will vote for the plant eater,
said Albertosaurus, a meat eater. Of course, and all the meat eaters will vote for the meat eater, said Barosaurus, a plant eater. They all agreed that such an election would not be a good idea, and whoever won it would not be a true representative of all the dinosaurs. But it was too late to change anything. The day of the voting dawned clear and bright, and all throughout the day, dinosaurs flocked to the polling place. Shy Coelosaur and his friend Brash Compsognathus were the first to arrive. As they came, they were chanting, meat eaters, hip hip hooray! It was no secret who they were voting for. Hush up now, said Diplodocus, who arrived right after them. Don't you know you're not allowed to campaign so near the polls? Those weren't the only angry words that day. Meat eaters glared at plant eaters. Plant eaters snubbed meat eaters. There hadn't been that much tension in dinosaur land since the last earthquake. Finally, the long day ended and the votes were counted. Tyrannosaurus Rex, the retiring king, had been asked to announce the winner. A hush fell over the crowd as they nervously stood awaiting the fatal news.
fellow dinosaurs,
Tyrannosaurus said.
The winner is...
And he paused to open a long white envelope.
Oh my gosh,
he gasped.
It's a tie vote. I hereby declare Alice and Alan joint presidents. They will rule together in peace and harmony for the good of all dinosaurs.
A great roar went up from the crowd.
Yippee! We won!
Shouted all the meat eaters.
Hip, hi, hooray! We won!
Shouted all the plant eaters. But as Camarasaurus whispered to Oviraptor,
I don't really know what all the fuss is about. The president doesn't do anything anyway.
He was right. And Alice and Alan were so good at doing nothing that everybody said they were much better at ruling than Tyrannosaurus Rex, who sometimes did do something.